This is our time, this is our place, this is our moment to lift. We're gonna lift your name higher. This is our place, this is our moment to lift your name. This will be the best time of our lives as we encounter your love again. Here with you, our hearts will come alive. As we sing it, we declare your praises. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. As we declare your praises. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Come on, make some noise for Jesus.
Estás escuchando Radio La Roca 106.3 FM. Radio La Roca.
This is WIPULP, Pembroke Pines, Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, The Rock Church.
After a 1-month hiatus, 1 month of absence, 1 month of my poor listeners not being able to listen to me, I'm back. I am back on the Ryan Crossley Show. It has been a long time coming. I want to apologize to anybody that listens to this show and was waiting to hear more about the news this last month. I apologize. I'll explain myself in just a moment. But first of all, I want to welcome you to the Ryan Crossley Show, all of those that are listening. I want you to share this. If you can just grab the links on Facebook and YouTube and share it out so that people can hear. We're going to talk about things that are going on in our world, and especially some issues that have risen up in the last 24 hours. But what we like is to try and kind of give our opinion, our op-ed, if I can put it that way. We are not a news channel, but we are definitely an opinion channel. And hopefully we can make you think. That's the main thing I want to do, is make you think. And to be able to analyze it all as you would to make the best decisions that you can. So to everybody that's connecting online, I just want to thank you for connecting to the Ryan Crossley Show. About a month ago, we had a tragedy happen here at our church. One of our greatest leaders and a personal friend, somebody who came into the church 11 years ago, and I participated in every aspect of his spiritual walk, as far as him repenting of his sins, getting baptized, getting the Holy Ghost, getting married, dedicating his child. I have not in my life suffered a loss so significant as what we suffered a month ago when, for reasons that we will never understand, he passed and is now with the Lord. And so we suffered that horrible tragedy March 24th, and to be very honest with you, just kind of took the wind out of my sails for a little while, trying to readjust priorities. It makes you reflect and think about a lot of things when you go through something like that. And so I just need to take some time off. And so I apologize to all the listeners of this show, but please now know that we are back, and we are back on fire because of what's happening in our world. Somebody's got to speak up, and thankfully there are a lot of voices. I am thankful, honestly, am very thankful for the different platforms that are available for us to communicate what we think or what we feel, because it at least it gives us a voice. And I'm thankful for all those that are speaking out. Now, we're having to fight harder than ever to be able to speak out because of all the censorship and the cancel culture and the wokeness that exists. It's just absolutely ridiculous. The fight has gotten ridiculous. It is borderline insane, some of the things that we're having to deal with. So first thing I want to talk about is what is on front page everywhere, right? And that is this leak that occurred at the Supreme Court. It is very interesting, the different reactions from the different sides, correct? On the right, on the Republican conservative side, the reaction is more not to the content of the leak as far as what was written by Judge Samuel Alito, but it is more about the fact that it was leaked, the fact that there has been a breach at the highest level of what should be confidentiality. There should be no more confidential place in our government than the Supreme Court because of the issues that they discuss, and because they are the highest law in the land. When they make a decision, it is settled, unless they were to revisit it later, like what they're doing now. But those processes must be protected. Those processes must be done in such a way to where there is integrity and there is faith on our side. There is faith that everything is being handled with confidentiality and integrity. So on the right side, the worry is not so much the content of the leak, because we agree with the content of the leak. I agree wholeheartedly with the content of the leak. The concern is that somebody leaked this to Politico, and now obviously it's causing. I said this yesterday. You watch that they are going to start rioting and causing all the chaos like they did that summer with all the Black Lives Matter protests, with all of the burning of the buildings and the George Floyd protests that happened. I said, watch this. They're going to start rioting the same way. Done deal. In Los Angeles last night, absolute chaos. They had to get the police. Why? Because it's a tactic. It's a strategy. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it is orchestrated. People, if you just think these things are mistakes or it's one person, let me just say that. If you think this is just one person, one innocent clerk somewhere, or one person that has some kind of moral value, says, oh, I've got to let this be known because it's terrible and it's got to be made public. If you think that's what's happening, then you're just oblivious to how these things actually work. So on the right, the worry is that this thing was even leaked, because that shows that there is a breach in the highest court of the land, and that things that should be kept secret until they're ready to be made public are not being kept secret. Somebody is, for their own purposes or for the political purposes, obviously, is letting this be known and is violating the trust and the integrity of the Supreme Court. Now, on the left, interestingly enough, they have said absolutely nothing to condemn the leak. The last thing I had heard was not one single senator had come out. This was the last thing I heard. If it has changed since then, I apologize. But as of when I went to bed last night, not one single Democrat senator had come out to condemn the fact that this was leaked. Even if they don't agree with the content of what Alito wrote, they should have condemned the leak. Say, hey, this is a bad deal. You can't have leaks happening at the Supreme Court. But they haven't said that. all that they're doing is using it as an opportunity to attack what Alito is saying. And from here on, let me tell you something, from here till November, the pressure is going to be on. So with that said, to me, it is quite obvious what is happening. This decision would have been made in June. They started discussing this back some time ago. I believe it's the Mississippi case that was brought before the Supreme Court, which has given them an opportunity, because in Mississippi, I think they're trying to ban abortions after like 15 weeks or something like that. I can't remember their law, okay? But they're wanting to basically do that. That went to the Supreme Court, and it is giving the Supreme Court the opportunity to, if they want to, overturn the decision made in Roe v. Wade. Now, let me just be very, very clear so that you can discern when they're lying to you. Okay, let's go back. When you hear somebody say that this is an inherent right of a woman to abort her child, which, by the way, let me pause. Let me pause and say this. Sometimes in life, sweet justice happens. It's just sweet how things happen, because the Democrats try and paint, and the pro-abortion people try and paint this, it's not a child, it's a ball of cells, it's a fetus. They use every word that they can in their vocabulary to not say it's a child. Okay, they do everything. Unborn, they'll say unborn child. They'll anything they can do to avoid telling the truth, which is you are murdering a baby. Okay, that's the truth. And we know this because there's been babies that have been born prematurely, many months premature, and they have survived and become thriving human beings. I know a lot of people that have lived through that. In our church here, I visited the hospital when we had a family here that had a preemie that was almost 3 months preemie, and believe me, that child is thriving because he terrorizes the church. But my point is, they'll use anything they can to not say child, because they know that sounds terrible. It sounds terrible if you actually say you are aborting a child. That doesn't sound good. You know, if you're aborting a ball of cells, if you're aborting a fetus, it's just different terminology that tries to minimize the fact of what's really happening, tries to sanitize it, if I can put it that way. But yesterday, old President Biden, Mr. Gaff himself, who cannot, if he speaks off topic or if he goes out on his own, the entire White House staff goes into panic mode, because you never know what Sleepy Joe, as he's called, you never know what he's going to say. Sometimes he says words you can't even understand. It's his own vocabulary. It's like, I don't know what he just said. But yesterday, Joe Biden is giving an off, which they don't let him do very often. He's talking to reporters, and he goes off topic, and he says that a woman's right, and this is what he said, to abort a child. Okay? He said it. It came out of his mouth, to abort a child. Well, the moment he said that, the staff, the people came in, all of his handlers came in right around him and ushered him away, because you don't want the president of the United States to say the truth when the truth hurts, when the truth exposes what you're really doing. So President Biden said it. He said, abort a child. And of course, that is not good for those that want to paint this as some kind of sanitary thing. But I digress. But let me just say this. The idea, okay, listen to me. The idea that a woman's right to have an abortion has always been an inherent right since the founding of our nation is an absolute lie. women, even let's just go to this. When Roe versus Wade was approved about 50 years ago, when it passed the Senate through a liberal court, by the way. You need to read. If you haven't read David Horowitz's book, Dark Agenda, you need to read it. Because when you read that book, you're going to realize how the left has bypassed the legislative process and basically just cherry-picked their issues and taken cases to the court. Instead of things going through Congress and Senate in order to be established by law, then through the desk of the president. No, they don't do that. They bypass it all, find a case that they can create a victim, which they did with Jane Roe. Jane Roe later on came out and said she was pro-life. She never aborted her baby. And then she was very vocal about pro-life. And then she even had a deathbed confession talking about how they manipulated her. She was you need to go read her story. They took advantage. It's very sad. They took advantage of a broken young girl who was troubled and had several issues in life in this area. And they took advantage of her and used her as their poster child for abortion. And she didn't even have an abortion. And she later on came out very vocally against abortion. So you need to go back and study those things so that you know how things are manipulated. But 50 years ago, when this was passed, you have to understand that in most of the 50 states, abortion was completely illegal. There was no right to do that. It was considered what we know it to be, as people that believe that life begins at conception, as people that know that a heartbeat is within the first 12 days of that child being conceived. People that know that the Lord said in His Word, before I formed you in the womb, I knew thee. We understand that life, Bible says that the life is in the blood. So the moment there's blood, there's life. And so we understand what is actually happening. But you need to understand that 50 years ago, it was not an accepted thing. When Roe versus Wade happens, it literally is an earthquake type of decision, because it was not the popular belief. It was not how people felt. So here's why I say this. Because you'll hear people today say, well, this is just, it's like it's been a right that they have always had. No, it has not been a right that they have always had. It was decided by a liberal court. It bypassed everything. It ignored science. We are 50 years down the road now. We know more scientifically than we knew 50 years ago about a child, a baby in the womb. Interestingly enough, the left only cares about science and their supposed science. They want to ignore the science of life, right? But this was not a right, okay? This was decided by a court. And what happened, and here's what you need to know about the Supreme Court thing, is what happened was back before Roe versus Wade was decided, basically each state, we live in a republic, so each state has its own Congress, Senate, representatives. The governor basically is kind of like the president of the state, if I can put it that way. Each state should, in many, many ways, operates independently, which we can see that through stuff like the pandemic with COVID. Each state made different decisions and had different results, right? So back before Roe versus Wade, there were states where you could have an abortion legally. Sometimes there were different rules as far as when you could have it, after which trimester or what have you, or before which trimester. But the states were able to make that decision. And then there were many states where it was absolutely illegal. When the Supreme Court passes Roe versus Wade, it becomes federal. It becomes a federalized thing to where now across the 50 states, basically a person could fight for their case for an abortion because it's been decided at the federal level. What is happening right now is not removing a woman's ability or right to go somewhere if she wants to get an abortion, which is devastating to me. But if she decides to do that, there will be states, I guarantee you, there will be states like California and New York and New Jersey and very liberal places that will probably completely keep every right that she would want to have to go and have an abortion. What the Supreme Court is deciding is to return the power of those decisions back to the states. So it's not eliminating a woman's ability to go do that. Just it's going to be the states to decide. So if a state decides here, no, like for example, Mississippi, it's the Mississippi case that's before the Supreme Court. So Mississippi says no. Here in Mississippi, abortion is illegal. We will not fund it. We will not support it. We will not allow it. Well, then, if a person is in Mississippi and they want to get an abortion, they would have to go somewhere else to get it. They wouldn't be able to do that in Mississippi. And that's how it was before. So I say that just so that you know, like when you have these people holding up the signs, get your hands off my body and all this kind of stuff. No, I mean, if they really want to, you want to make that kind of decision, there's going to be places where you can go make that decision. But every state should be able to decide like they did before. And so, it is unbelievable. I don't know. I'm going to say something. It's not for everybody, okay? But anybody who is pro-abortion, if they ever watched an abortion, I don't know how pro-abortion they would be after that. I'll never forget a story of a nurse. There was a nurse that she worked, and she was going to participate in her first baby delivery. And she was going to go participate in her first baby delivery. She was so excited about it because she was going to bring life into the world. And so she goes into work that day, and she is just, emotionally excited. She's going to participate in bringing life into the world. When she got to the hospital, they transferred her to another patient. And when she got there, she didn't know what it was that was going to be done. But when she got there, it was an abortion. So she goes to work thinking she's going to participate in bringing life into the world. But she ended up being there for the elimination, the assassination of a life of a baby. And to hear her tell her story, I heard it many years ago, but to hear her tell her story, it's amazing how that marked her. She said, I don't understand how this could ever be allowed. And it shook her to her core, and she's always been very vocal against abortion after that. Anybody, it's very easy to go and protest and hold a sign up, but you need to go see what's actually happened. They're literally, the babies try to avoid the needles. They try to avoid the destruction of their own bodies. They scream in the womb. They have pain. It is the killing of a life. So to me, it's amazing that in this country, this is even a debate. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say something. I don't care who it makes uncomfortable, but anybody who can support the act of aborting a baby, I just don't understand how anybody could ever elect you into office or support you in any way, if that's what you support, because it is a child. Joe Biden himself, aborted child. So, okay, so what's going on? Why was this leaked? And I'm not going to take all my time on this because I've got also, I want to talk about the disinformation board. But why was this leaked? Well, very obvious. They have to change the narrative for the elections, okay? Everything is going bad. It's so bad. It is so bad that even the comedian at the White House Correspondents' Dinner the other day he was joking. Joe Biden's sitting there, and Trevor Noah, he's the comedian at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and he gets up and he says, President Biden, since your presidency started, everything is looking up. And he's a liberal comedian. He hates conservatives. He hates Trump. He hates all the right. And he looks at Biden and says, since your presidency started, everything is looking up. Gas is up, rent is up, groceries are up, and Biden's over there laughing up a storm. Well, that's the problem. When you have liberal comedians that are turning on you in that way, to where inflation is the discussion, the war in Russia and Ukraine, the amount of money we just sent another $33 billion. We do not have $33 billion to send anywhere right now. We are going down a sinking hole at light speed when it comes to debt, and it's going to bite us quicker than we realize. And so everything's bad, right? His gaffes, the inflation, everything. People are paying $5 a gallon for gas. Groceries are ridiculous right now. The indecision, the border crisis. We're talking possibly 18,000 people a day that are going to be crossing here in the near future. And so that's the narrative. Well, none of that is positive. None of that is good. All of that works against them, and they know it. It's been in the news that they're thinking, man, in November, somebody was calculating the Republicans could win up to 70 seats because of what's going on, and maybe so. But they know that the narrative right now is bad. So what happens? You think it's just somebody leaking a document because they somehow want to let the people know? No, it's strategy. Look at the news now, all over the news, and until they find out who leaked it, John Roberts is going to do an investigation. So what's going to dominate the news now? This is going to dominate the news, not inflation, not the amount of money that is being spent, not any of that. What's going to dominate the news now, and believe me, they're even going to change it to where you're not even going to be talking about the leak. Nobody's going to care about what it leaked. It's all going to be about, I can't believe that they're going to overturn a decision from 50 years ago in the Senate. And you've even got Republicans. I'm sorry, but Mr. and Sister Republican, listen to me. You've even got Republicans who are like opposing this decision. If you really stand for the values that you say you stand for, you would support this, because it's not something that has always been law. It is not something that always been. It's not in the Constitution at all. It's something that was decided by a liberal court 50 years ago. And if this court decides to overturn it and return the power back to the states, that should be fine. In fact, as Republicans, we want less government, not more government. So this is a way for less government, where we hand something back to the states, and it's not our tax money at the federal level funding things that we shouldn't fund. Money, I don't want my tax money. I'm sorry. I don't want my tax money going to fund an abortion anywhere. There's no way. And so let's return the power back to the states and let it be as it was. But they leak this so that I guarantee you that these judges, these conservative judges, are going to start getting death threats. I guarantee you that they're going to start having a lot of pressure. Some of them might even have to have some protection, because you got some wackos in this world that will do anything that they can. And the thing that really kind of bugs me about all this, it's not a surprise. Why? Because there's never any consequences, right? Hillary Clinton should be in jail right now for what they did to Trump. I mean, it's 100 times worse than Watergate. It's 100 times worse than what Richard Nixon did in Watergate. But she's at the Met Gala yesterday, and just flew around. She should be in jail. You funded, it's well known, you funded to spy on another candidate. And this is no secret. It's out there. It's verified, but nothing's happening. So when you have that and there's no consequences, when you have the Hunter Biden situation on his laptop, and this is all Russian disinformation. This is not what it says it is, and it's not his laptop. And what are we finding out now? Yes, it is his laptop, and yes, it was. Yes, you're finding out had nothing to do with Russian disinformation, and so what's going on is there's no consequences. They can just lie. They can do whatever they want. There's no consequences. So that's how you finally get to somebody leaking something at the level of Supreme Court. There's no consequences. Nothing's going to happen to me because everything's managed and controlled by the left. And so I'm not going to have to do anything. I guarantee you, if it would have been Donald Trump Jr.'s laptop, oh my goodness, it would be, that would have been a never-ending thing, So how do we get to a leaked thing like this at the Supreme Court? Very easily. There's never been any consequences for everything else that's being leaked, for everything else that's violating the rules. And so hopefully they'll find out who it is. I'd be surprised to find out who it is. I'd be surprised if we ever find out who it is. But hopefully we do find out. Now, I want to talk about this. Now, I do think, let me just say this. I was reading this, that Senator Joe Manchin has maintained his defense of the congressional filibuster in defiance of calls to pass Roe versus Wade as law. The West Virginia lawmaker said he did not support getting rid of the measure, which he suggested is the only protection we have in democracy. Now, very interesting, right? That they're actually, you understand that? Do you understand what, this proves my point. Please listen. I'm going to read it very slowly again so that you can see what I'm about to say. Senator Joe Manchin has maintained his defense of the congressional filibuster in defiance of calls to pass Roe versus Wade as law. What does that mean? That means that 50 years ago, a decision was made by the Supreme Court, right? And that decision by the Supreme Court is the case that has been used for any other argument that would rise up, any other court case that would come up about abortion. So here's what has happened for the last 50 years. For the last 50 years, if somebody wanted to do like what Mississippi is doing, if a state wanted to ban abortions, what has happened? It's not about law. It's about stare decisis. It's about the case that the Supreme Court decided with Roe v. Wade. So Roe v. Wade has become the bar or the defense against any other kind of abortion case. But watch this. Is it law? Well, let's read this again. Senator Joe Manchin has maintained his defense of the congressional filibuster in defiance of calls to pass Roe versus Wade as law. What does that mean? I have said it repeatedly. For something to become a law, it has to go through a legislative process. It has to go before the House, has to go before the Senate, and then it has to go to the president's desk, and he has to sign it into law. Obviously, Roe v. Wade never did that. What they're wanting to do right now, because Roe v. Wade is in danger, because people are saying, hey, we don't want this. Because Roe v. Wade is in danger, the Democrats want to now bring it before the Congress, bring it before the Senate, and make it a law. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Roe v. Wade has been the protection, court case-wise, against any other court case on abortion, which is why it has been legal in that sense across the nation. But it never was it never became an official law. If not, there would be nothing to discuss. And so the Democrats are wanting to filibuster. They're wanting to get rid of the filibuster, so that they can now pass Roe v. Wade as a law, take it out of the Supreme Court's hands, and make it something that cannot ever be gotten rid of. So I'm thankful for Joe Manchin, and I hope that Christian Cinema also holds the line on the filibuster, because it is our only protection right now against some very dangerous decisions that the left wants to take. So I just want to mention those things. There's a lot more that I could talk about, but you need to understand this is very strategic. Very, very strategic. Look at your news feeds, okay? You can look at all your news feeds, and everything right now is about the Supreme Court leak, which lets you know if they ever want to distract you from something so you don't pay attention. It happens all the time, and we fall for it all the time. We all of a sudden we pay attention to this, and we don't pay attention to the other. Let me tell you something you ought to pay attention to, and that is this creation of the Disinformation Board. The creation of the Disinformation Board. This comes along magically, right? Just a couple days after Elon Musk buys Twitter for $44 billion. And also, not only after Elon Musk buys Twitter, but also Donald Trump's social media app, Truth Social, is the number one downloaded social media app right now. It is in front of Twitter. It's in front of every other social media app. It is the most downloaded social media app right now, Truth Social. In fact, one of the questions that they asked when Elon Musk bought Twitter was whether he was going to let Donald Trump back on the platform. And the truth of the matter is, they said Donald Trump said no, that he was just going to stay on his social media, which is Truth Social. And I'm on Truth Social right now, and all it's very active. All the names are over there. People are switching over left and right. In fact, I'm on there more than I'm on Twitter, because I'm hardly ever on Twitter, if ever. But so two things happen. Elon Musk buys Twitter. Truth Social becomes the number one social media app that is being downloaded, and all of a sudden the presidency, the administration comes up with this thing called the Disinformation Board, which, if they were an honest disinformation board, then they would be against their own selves because they are the gurus of disinformation. So I want to. There's an article here on the Daily Caller, and I think it's very important for you to know who is in charge of this disinformation board. So the woman that has been put in charge of the disinformation board is a lady named Nina Jankowicz. And so Nina Jankowicz, it's the Biden administration's choice to head the newly created Disinformation Governance Board. And here's what it says about Nina. Nina has a history of peddling misinformation, as well as extensive experience working for liberal organizations. So here you go, right? Who is the president going to put in as the leader of the Disinformation Board? Well, a woman who has given a lot of misinformation herself, proven, and she works for liberal organizations. Do you think a person like this is going to be unbiased? Do you think a person like this is going to censor speech just because it's conservative or it's something she doesn't agree with? Of course she is. Jankowicz's past statements have recently resurfaced, leading to accusations that she's too partisan and against free speech. Jankowicz wrote this in a tweet on April 25th. I shudder to think about if free speech absolutists were taking over platforms. Who's she referring to? She's referring to Elon Musk. What that would look like for the marginalized communities, which are already shouldering disproportionate amounts of this abuse. That is so wrong. Social media provides an even platform for everybody unless you censor people. It doesn't, social media does not care whether you're black or white, rich or poor. It gives everybody the same platform to be able to speak out, to be able to post their pictures, to be able to do what they want to do on their social media profile, okay? But so don't give me this garbage about marginalized communities. They're not marginalized at all. Everybody has the same right on social media unless you censor people, which is exactly what they were doing. And I'll tell you who they were censoring. They were not censoring marginalized communities. They were censoring conservative voices, people they didn't agree with, doctors that were against the vaccine. I mean, all kinds of stuff like that. That's who they were censoring. And then she tries to say that these marginalized communities are already suffering disproportionate amounts of abuse on these platforms. That is not true. So let me read a little bit of this. The woman tapped to head the Biden administration's new disinformation board attached to the Department of Homeland Security. Now that's interesting, right? Who does the disinformation board answer to, or who's there? What's the strong arm? Okay, what's the strong arm of the disinformation board? It's the Department of Homeland Security. Well, that's not good, right? Because then if you are spreading disinformation, according to them, you are now a domestic terrorist. And the Department of Homeland Security can come and get you because you are a problem, because you're spreading disinformation, according to them. But here's what it says. The woman tapped ahead. The Biden administration new disinformation board attached to the DHS has a history of peddling misinformation, extensive experience working with liberal organizations, and even appears to have been the lead singer for a Harry Potter themed band. I don't care about that, but DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas announced on April 27th the formation of a disinformation governance board. Why? Why do we need that? Okay, when you read just the title of it, it is completely against the First Amendment of free speech. Telling lawmakers its goal is to tackle misinformation and disinformation targeting minority communities. So now it's all about racism. It's all about, you're just intolerant. That's not true. The board, led by Nina Jankowicz, is also charged with working to tackle misinformation. Watch this. And disinformation ahead of the 2022 midterm elections, according to Fox News. So why are they forming this board? Well, because they know that that as the elections come around, a lot of people are going to be posting things, and they want to control what people are reading. Conservative critics of the board warned it posed a threat to Americans' First Amendment rights. However, Mayorkas said Sunday that the board will not monitor. I don't believe this for a second. Mayorkas said Sunday that the board will not monitor American citizens and emphasized that Jankowicz is eminently qualified to lead it. Do you believe that for 1 second, that they're not going to monitor American citizens? These are the same people that spied on Donald Trump and hid it. These are the same people that pinged all the cell phones on January 6th and are putting people in jail left and right. But we're not going to monitor American citizens. Baloney. I don't believe you for 1 second. Who else are you going to monitor? If you're talking about disinformation, who are you going to monitor? You're not going to monitor foreign countries because you're in bed with them. Nina Jankowicz said this: cat's out of the bag. Here's what I've been up to the past 2 months and why I've been quiet on here. Honored to serve in Biden's administration, DHS governor, helped shape our counter disinformation efforts. Let me see. Okay. Jankowicz became a global fellow for the Wilson Center in 2017 and a disinformation fellow in 2019, according to her LinkedIn profile. At the Wilson Center, she focused on projects like malign creativity, how gender, sex, and lies are weaponized against women online. 2016-17, she advised the Ukrainian government on disinformation. And this is when, that's interesting, right? Because that's when Hunter Biden was over there. So when Hunter Biden's over there making all kinds of money from these oil people, he was making all kinds of money being on an oil and gas board that he knew nothing about. And it was all because of who he was connected to. At that time, Jankowicz is advising the Ukrainian government on disinformation and communications. Okay. Prior to that, Jankowicz worked for the National Democratic Institute, a liberal nonprofit that monitors speech online. I wonder if she was monitoring American citizens. In 2021, Jankowicz founded Sophia's Strategy LLC, a firm doing research and policy advising, and in 2022, she began as a senior advisor for the Center for Information Resilience, a UK-based nonprofit purporting to combat disinformation and harmful behavior towards women and minorities online, according to her LinkedIn profile. Okay, let's scooch down here a little bit. Okay, some of Jankowicz, here's some of what I want to get to. I don't have very long here. But some of Jankowicz's past statements have recently come under scrutiny, with many accusing her of peddling false information. Watch this. Such as widely dismissing the validity of the Hunter Biden laptop story by reportedly calling it a Trump campaign product. Okay, so this woman that is now going to be the head of the disinformation board, she dismissed completely the validity of Hunter Biden's laptop and called it a Trump campaign product. She has not retracted that. She has not said, oh, hold on, I was wrong now that it has been discovered that that was not the case. No, she's not doing that. So we're going to trust this person to handle this? Of course not. John Levine says this: Joe Biden's new disinformation czar, Nina Jankowicz, publicly cast doubt on the Post's accurate reporting, the New York Post accurate reporting about Hunter Biden's laptop, and promoted false rumors suggesting it was Russian disinformation. So she, there you go, this Nina Jankowicz, she, watch this, she promoted false rumors suggesting it was Russian disinformation. So she herself is guilty of disinformation. She herself is guilty of misinforming and purporting rumors that later on are proved not to be true, but she won't retract it. And she's going to be the head of the disinformation board? Are you kidding me? No way. In fact, she says this, October 22, 2020, she tweeted out, back on the quote-unquote laptop from hell, apparently Biden notes 50 former national security officials and 5 former CIA heads that believe the laptop is a Russian influence op. Trump says Russia, Russia, Russia. So there she is purporting the rumor. She also dismissed the theory that COVID-19 leaked from a lab in Wuhan, China, calling it a tool of former President Donald Trump and his supporters. So, hey, Nina, you're guilty of disinformation. We know these things now to be true. Actually, we knew they were true at the very beginning. We just had to fight against you. We had to fight against all of the left's spinning of those things and the lies and things that they hid. In fact, she said in 2020, it becomes more politically convenient for Trump and his administration the further we get into this maelstrom, especially in comparison to the Chinese response, in reference to the lab leak theory. Jankowicz has also signaled her opposition to free speech on digital platforms, where she said that I shudder to think about if free speech absolutists were to take over the platforms. So she is not for absolute free speech. She's not for that. She's saying that. She is not for free speech. And we're going to put this person in charge of monitoring what is said. So the White House is not backing down. They stand by her. And this is what the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, she's a jewel, isn't she, said this. She said, we know that there has been a range of disinfo out there about a range of topics. I mean, including COVID, for example, and also elections and eligibility. So this is unbelievable. I don't have, this is what Psaki says. I don't have any comment on the laptop, but I can tell you, what I can tell you is that it sounds like the objective of the board is to present. Cause what they asked her about that, hey, here she said this about the laptop. It's proven to be true. What do you say about the laptop? She said, I don't have any comment on the laptop. Interesting, right? No comment. But what I can tell you is that it sounds like the objective of the board is to prevent disinformation, misinformation from traveling around the country in a range of communities. I'm not sure who opposes that effort, and I don't know who this individual is, so I have no comment on it specifically. Psaki said, adding that she didn't have any information about Jankowicz and could check for more information on the new board. The next day, Psaki said that Jankowicz is an expert on online disinformation. Wow! It only took Jen Psaki less than 24 hours to go from not knowing anything about Jankowicz to now saying that Jankowicz is an expert. I wonder where she got that from. She's an expert on online disinformation and was formerly a disinformation fellow at Wilson Center. So they don't care. People, please listen. They don't care about the truth, okay? They don't care about the truth. They just lie right to your face. And that is the sad situation that we're facing. But if you haven't done this, you need to go and look at this and who is being put in charge of this, and it should scare you. It should scare you because she is not a free speech person. She is not honest herself. She is guilty of misinformation and disinformation herself. And now she's going to be monitoring. What they're going to try and do is very simple. They're going to try and see if they can shut down Twitter or if they can shut down Truth Social on a government level. That's what they're going to try and do. Elon Musk is a genius. He's taking Twitter private, which it makes it a lot more difficult for them to do something to a private company. But you need to be aware that these things are under attack. And speak up. This is a very, very, I really don't know if there is been a more important election cycle in my life than this year. You need to get out. You need to vote. Last night, we saw that President Trump is still a very, very influential person because the candidate that he backed for Senate in Ohio, J.D. Vance, he won the primary, and he is set to run now against the Democrat, and we hope that he wins. But this is going to be a very important election. We cannot, folks, our country is really, I don't mean this in a apocalyptic way, but it is on the brink of destruction. I mean, you cannot keep going the way we're going and be okay. There comes a time, there is a point of no return. There is a point where you can't pull back from something, and we are there. With our national debt, with the wokeness, I mean, it's absolutely insane that we're even having to have these arguments or discussions about what they're wanting to teach kindergartners and first graders in school. I mean, those kids are not even thinking that way. In any other case, you would be a predator, not an educator. But we're having to have these discussions. Our country, the left is taking this country so far, and it's going to hit a point of no return. Now, you know, some of the fatalists in Christian world, fatalists, well, you know, this all has to take place for the Lord to come. Yeah, maybe, but I think of my children, and I think, Lord, what kind of world do I want them to grow up in? And that's why we still need to stay on top of this stuff, and we still need to be a part of it and not just stick our head in the sand and look away. So please be aware this year of what you're doing, who you're voting for. Don't ignore it. It's one of the most important elections of our time, no doubt. And so we've got to pay attention. There's a lot going on in the news, a lot that I couldn't even get to, but stay on top of it. We'll see each other here on Wednesdays from 9 to 10 on the Ryan Crossley Show. And we've got some exciting things coming up in the near future that hopefully we can announce, things that we're going to be a part of that we're real excited about. And we'll be announcing that. So if you're in the area or you want to connect with us on it, we will be able to do that with you. So just have a great Wednesday. Stay true, speak the truth, stay alive, and we'll just keep doing this. Thanks for being part of the Ryan Crossley Show. We'll see you next week.